Hello YouTube. Today we are going to be making an easy apple strudel recipe. I found it on CAKEWHIZ's website. It makes approximately 22 strudels. It's a fairly easy and straightforward recipe. Takes about 10 minutes prep time, 20 minutes to cook it, and so total time altogether it's about 30 minutes. You can simplify it or make it more difficult by either buying or making the apple pie filling and the puff pastry, but let's dive into it. These are the ingredients you will be needing today. A can of apple pie filling, 1 egg, it can be of any size, plus 1 tablespoon of water, your choice of any color of sanding sugar. I chose silver, gold, and green, and they're to put on top after you put the egg wash. 1 package of puff pastry. Now you can buy this from the store or you can make your own. The same applies to the apple pie filling. It's just simpler and easier at times to use store-bought. Utensils. Utensils you will need is 1 smallish to medium size pan. This is going to be used to help cook down or reduce the liquid in the apple pie filling. 1 bowl or cup, about small to medium size, to hold the pie filling after you've cooked it down, or you can just use the pan. I just preferred a bowl. Then you will need a spoon to apply the pie filling to the puff pastry when it comes time, and a rubber spatula or rubber scraper to scrape down the sides of the pan as you are cooking down the apple pie. It is optional, of course. 1 pastry brush to apply the egg wash on top of the puff pastries as we are making the strudels. Baking sheets that we will put the strudels on to put them into the oven. I needed 2. If you're going to make more, you might need more, or you can do them in batches. And last, we will need some parchment paper to lay down so that the strudels can have something to set on to keep them from sticking, plus makes easy cleanup. Step 1, we are going to cook down the apple pie filling to remove any of the moisture. You will turn the stove to a low to medium temperature, just enough to help cook out or simmer out the water without burning or actually any more cooking the apple pie. So we're just going to dump this in here. Well, this isn't going to work. Dang it. Let's apply some magic. We're going to go 3, 2, 1, snap. Oh, snap. There we go. Magic isn't so hard. So now that we have the apple pie filling in the pan, we're going to give it a quick few stirs just to make sure to disperse it around, spread it out. And then we are going to leave it be on that medium-low setting for a couple of moments, just to let it cook down. Step 2. We are going to turn the oven to 400 to let it preheat. That is a temperature at which we will be cooking these for, and then you can just leave. Alright, step 3. We are now going to be assembling or cutting our puff pastry into strips. In order to thaw them, you would need to wrap it up in a paper towel, put it in the microwave for 15 seconds. When the ding goes off, then you are going to flip it over, put it on for another 15 seconds, and that is how we got them to unfold like this. Otherwise, they'd be frozen. I'm going to take a ruler, and originally these are supposed to be 2 to 3 inches by 5 to 6 inches, but I noticed that wasn't going to work. So I decided to cut mine the 1.5 inch marks down the side that I put little notches in by like 4.5, so that's kind of in half, and that gives me 12 per each sheet, which would give me 24, which is a little over the 22, but it somehow seems to work out. So you see me here making little notches to indicate where each 1.5 inch segment is going to end up being. I do this just to make sure that they look like they're going to be, a good size, that they're going to work out how I need them to be. Because, the saying, old adage goes, measure twice, cut once. But I go through and I measure out the 6 markings on this side, and then I cut them in half and I get the other 6 side, and then I do the same on the other dough sheet on the other side. Now let's move on to step 4. We will be filling our strips of puff pastry dough. Once you have proficiently cut out all of your strips of puff pastry dough and you have them all kind of evened out or set aside in stacks so you're ready to fill them, we will take a little bit of the pie filling at a time until it seems like they are to your liking a filling, and you want to try to evenly disperse it between all of them. There should be between 22 and 24 strips of puff pastry. And when you think that it looks like all of them have, you will fold over the one side and then the other side, making sure that they are thoroughly stuck together before flipping them over and setting them aside onto your lined baking sheets. And quick note, I had made it prior than the instructions had called for, but you could add a little bit, if you make it ahead of time, add a little bit of the egg wash to keep the puff pastry dough to stick together. And like I said, this is in the instructions. A later step is to make the egg wash, but I made it prior to that step in the recipe. But you see me dabbing just a little bit on here, help keep these stuck together so that when they go to bake, they don't separate. So we're going to move on to step 5, which is applying the cut marks on the top of the different puff pastry strudels in order to ensure that the steam can come out of the culinary delights as they bake in the oven. After we have made the cut marks, we would be applying that egg wash that I had previously mentioned. That would be the next step, as well as our sanding sugars that I'm pointing out of green, silver, and gold. And you can choose any colors you like. I am going to put in a fast forward sequence. You can watch it or you can forward past this to the next part once you are done cutting the top of your pastries. Once you've gotten all the cut marks made across the top of your pastries, we'll move on to making the egg wash in the next step, and then we will go from there. In this step, we're going to mix that egg and that tablespoon of water in a small dish or bowl and use either a fork or a whisk and whisk it together until it is quite thoroughly combined. And we are going to use this to apply to the top of our puff pastries to give them a nice crisp golden topping, as well as helping that sanding sugar we are going to apply in the next step here to the top of the delicacy. And we're going to move on to step 7. Now that we have cut our puff pastries into strips, we have cooked and reduced our apple pie filling down to a thicker consistency. We have wrapped our puff pastry dough inside with apple filling, and we have made our egg wash from 1 egg and a tablespoon of water in the previous step. We are now going to go through and start applying this egg wash to the top of our puff pastries, which will do 2 things. 1, it will give it a nice crispy brown color, as well as help in our next step of keeping and applying our sanding sugar to the top of our puff pastries. And you can apply whatever colors you like. I happen to have gold, silver, and green on top of them. You want to give a nice healthy pinch on top just to make sure it gives it a nice crunch when they come out of the oven. This is, however, a optional step. I am about to fast forward. You can choose to watch the next step, or you can skip ahead to the next part. Now that we have the other steps completed, we just need to pop them in the oven and wait the 20 minutes.
20 minutes later.
So we just pulled these out of the oven, and as you can see, that egg wash has lended to a nice flaky golden topping to them. The sanding sugar adds a nice little bit of pizzazz, as well as a nice crunch when they're bitten into. These are really a very simple and easy dessert to make, to whip up 30 minutes, couple simple ingredients, and that is all. And we will leave you with the ending with a couple of photos and the rest of this video. And we hope you stop by and give it a try.